for national security exigencies. I emphasize on that BNC Communications Bureau because what he says here, it's different from what the Attorney General says it is and how it is being represented on the charge sheet. But let's look at the expenditure as he details, or what he calls the summary.
Sure.
1, special operations, and that was for Turas, Scorpion, ACN 1 and 2, and an amount of 9.5 million Ghana cedis spent in the year 2020, and the justification for the expenditure was for special operations, that's payment towards special cyber and electronic surveillance solutions. And this money was received by ISC Holding. ISC Holding. If you recall, it is the company that he's been alleged to have been involved in that transaction, part of which he's been accused of stealing and then causing financial loss and all the other charges. Expenditure number 2, Operation Conquered Fist. This was a counter-terrorism special operation. The amount involved is 6.9 million Ghana cedis. The expenditure year was 2020-2024, and the justification was for the stability of the nation, counter-terrorism / extremism, received by various personnel and activities. 3, Operation Calm Life. That was an anti-kidnapping / violent crimes. In respect of this, an amount of 3.7 million Ghana cedis was expended, ranging between 2020 and 2024. The justification was for stability of the nation and counter-violent crimes, also received by various personnel and activities. 4, Parliamentary (Special Enactment of National Signals Bureau Act 2020. An amount of 960,000 Ghana cedis was expended between the years of 2020 and 2021, and the justification was for MP's allowance, received by Defense and Interior Committee. Item 5, Parliamentary, also in respect of enactment of National Signals Bureau (LI), an amount of 309,000 Ghana cedis was expended in the year 2024, and for MP's allowances, this was received by the Subsidiary Legislation Committee. Item 6 is Elections Special Operations, Allowance and Logistics. An amount of 7.2 million Ghana cedis was expended in December 2020, and it was for the stability of the nation and for peaceful polling, various personnel and activities. Also in respect of elections is item 7, where you have elections, special operations, allowance and logistics. Another 6.7 million Ghana cedis expended in December 2024, and that was also for stability of the nation and peaceful polling, received by various personnel and activities. Item 8, elections operations, support for opposition party, into brackets, communication equipment for election results collation. An amount of 8.3 million Ghana cedis, an equivalent of $500,000, was expended in September 2020. Let me finish. It was for stability of the nation, national cohesion, political impartiality, and this was received by classified. This was received by classified. You would notice that in all the other expenditure, I indicated who got it.
Received it.
In some instances, it just indicates various personnel.
Absolutely.
This, they say classified.
So let's stay on that particular expenditure item, because you see, just for the benefit of our listeners, this was ahead of the 2020 elections.
Yes, September 2024.
Good. And he says that this $500,000 was paid, according to him, based on the details of this document.
Yes.
Paid to opposition political party. He didn't name the opposition political party because there are a number of...
No, it's not parties.
Party.
Yes.
I'm saying there are a number of opposition political parties.
Yes, okay.
In the country.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
That was prior to the elections.
Precisely so.
And so if you talk about 500,000 paid to an opposition political party.
$500,000
paid to an opposition political party.
Yes, CD equivalent is 8.3 million Ghana cedis.
And he fails to mention that and says classified.
It's classified.
Why is that classified?
National security.
Paying an opposition political party?
No, so...
Or giving them the money to buy...
So the one who received the money...
Election, monitoring?
He chose to classify or to hide the identity of the person who received the money. But the other details are there. The amount in question, what it was meant for, the time it was given.
No, let's get that. What was it meant for again?
It was meant for stability of the nation, national cohesion, political impartiality. Yes, those are indicated as being the justification for that amount of money.
Paying $500,000.
Yes, and the item is labeled election. No, sorry, the item is labeled election special operations, support for opposition party, into brackets, communications equipment for election results collation.
Communication equipment.
Yes, for election results collation. And this is support for opposition party. It doesn't end there. Number 9, also election special operations. This is in respect of logistics, into brackets, vehicles. That's 2024 Nissan Patrol Platinum, 2024 Nissan Patrol Platinum, 2022 Land Cruiser GXR, and the amount involved is 5.1 million Ghana cedis. The time, December 2024. This again was for stability of nation, national cohesion, political impartiality. This was paid to special aid to president-elect. I take that again.
Let's repeat that. Mm-hmm.
This was an expenditure he says occurred in December 2024. The amount involved is 5.1 million Ghana cedis. The item is labeled election special operations in respect of logistics. They specify the logistics to include vehicles, and the vehicles, 2024 Nissan Patrol Platinum, 2024 Nissan Patrol Titanium, then 2022 Land Cruiser GXR, and then this was received by special aid to president-elect.
So, I mean, if what he says is anything but in the face of this document, president-elect at the end of the election 2024, we do know is the president of the Republic of Ghana now.
Yes, so his special aid is the one who is said to have received this amount of money.
According to Edubuahin.
According to Edubuahin, who is writing from the custody of Iyoko. And he's doing so because he wants to set the record straight. He thinks that the matters that are before the court for which he's been tried are misconceived. And he says that even though he tried not to disclose a lot of the information because he thinks they are national security operations, under the circumstances he's afraid he has to do what he has to do. And this is why we have this information. There's a very last item, which is human security operations. And this, they indicate generators. An amount of 520,000 Ghana cedis was expended in 2024, and this was for human security intervention. That was received by the National Security Coordinator. Now, after this, he goes on to say, I give you my highest assurances that Angela and I would never steal public funds, as is being deliberately and wickedly portrayed by the Attorney General. In any case, how does one steal public funds in the manner being described by the Attorney General without being flagged by the Auditor General? Further, I give you my highest assurances that Angela and I would never take what does not belong to us, even if privately arranged. We are full of content with the most blessings of God, with the modest blessings God has given us. What is evidently clear is that the Iyoko boss, Raymond Archer, is deliberately misrepresenting or distorting the facts to the authorities, and in the process causing unnecessary sensation that could embarrass the government and the national security. And I am craving your urgent intervention to avert it before it becomes too late. So this was the memo that was written by Edubuahin to the National Security Coordinator. This letter was again taken by his counsel and attached to a letter that he's written to the National Security Coordinator together with the charge sheet to make the case that, yes, these are the matters that have come to our attention. I mean, it's not what you say it is.
Absolutely.
Take a second look at it and let's proceed from there.
No, stay with me, Dennis, because we would have to run through some specific aspects of this memo we've just read. Quite explosive, to say the least.
In relation
but then again,
to the charge sheets.
The charge sheet specifically. And Christian Mamhesi is private legal practitioner joining us. And I thank you very much, and Counsel, for joining us here on Hot Edition. And the prayer is quite clearly that Kwabena Aduboahene is taking this route of putting out this memo written to the national security in the public domain to also directly respond to the press conferences addressed by the Attorney General, giving updates on his case specifically. But how far-reaching will this be?
Thank you for having me. Could you just mention the salient points for me, because I have to pack so to tune into you.
And in fact, Dennis will do that, but the sticky points in there, I mean, even before we get into the details of it, he's talking about some monies paid to members of parliament on a particular committee by national security,
okay.
And then also some 5.1 million cedis paid to the aid to the president-elect after the 2024 elections, 500,000 cedis, election results, coalition equipment, he says, was given to the opposition party, $500,000 for them to purchase. All of this, and that's what I'm saying, how putting out this in the public domain at a time when this particular trial is about starting, because he is in the coolest of Iyoko. How far-reaching will this be?
So, this is just by way of education purposes. Number one, there are two main submissions I want to put out on this by way of education. The first part is that because Attorney General started this whole public enterprise, that is what has also motivated him to also do same, so that stereotypes will be formed in the minds of the public. So it is both parties are trying to win the mind of the public, or to court public sympathy, rather than just basing everything in the courtroom, which is quite unfortunate. And I made my position clear last week, Saturday, on this point. Number two, to say that given the allegations, and they remain allegations, but if it is anything to go by in respect of the allegations, where an allegation of stealing or any criminal enterprise is alleged against Mr. A, and Mr. A happened to give proceeds of the proceeds from the third enterprise to third parties, we call it dishonest receiving. Now, to prove dishonest receiving, it is one that the court will be very critical to know the intention of the party that received it, whether indeed the party that received it was aware, or at the time of receiving it became aware, or thereupon became aware that the monies that had been advanced to me came from a certain illicit enterprise. And we call that mens rea. And the court will base proving this a lot on what we again call circumstantial evidence. So, again, by way of education, when we say circumstantial evidence, it is not direct evidence. So direct evidence is when the person is caught hands-on. So this is the evidence that we say it concludes culpably to Mr. A, connecting Mr. A to the offense. But when we come to circumstantial evidence, we connect the nodes of evidence and to come to a conclusion that when we connect node A, node B, node C, it all leads to the conclusion of D to say that indeed this is the evidence pointing out that the circumstantial evidence is established. So this basically comes under Section 147 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960.
Right.
That deals with dishonest receiving of property. And like I said, it must be with knowledge that it was obtained criminally. And so, I mean, I am not saying that this is the situation, but given the scenario, the letter, and the posture put out there in the content of the letter, please suggest that monies were given out to other persons. If it can be established that those other persons were acquiesced by knowledge, then this particular case is far from over.
Well, but in the midst of all of this, he has to prove beyond reasonable doubt in a court of competent jurisdiction that what he's put in this memo is indeed the truth, is it not? And that's beyond whatever we're going to discuss in the public domain. The law,
yes,
the rule of the game in the court is evidence, is it not?
Yes, the rule of the game is evidence. So if you are a CID and you arrest Mr. A, and Mr. A tells you that you arrest him based upon investigation, and Mr. A tells you that, let's say, the 20,000 CDs that you are investigating me of, I gave it to Madam A, I gave some to Madam A, I gave some to Madam B and Madam Mr. C. You have to bring all those parties in, investigate them, see whether what the person is saying is true, because they are emanating from the enterprise of investigation. And if indeed those persons fall within that offense of net, then the charge sheet will be amended to put further people into the whole equation. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to push the limits of persons possibly culpable in this to become a wider enterprise. But again, it is for the prosecution and as it is, Attorney General, to see what they want to do with this piece of evidence that has come forth, and whether they want to widen the scope and come under dishonest receiving. But this is only to educate the public on what dishonest receiving is, because the memo put out there in the sticky part in law comes under this area of law, being section 146.
And I do indeed, and I do appreciate your time, and then also acknowledging the limitation of, as it were, getting into a full-blown analysis of this particular memo, because yes, it has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt in court, and it has to, from what we do know now, this is a document that will be adduced in court as part of the argument by Kwabena Dubois' lawyers, because Samuel Atachia wrote a letter, the cover letter on this memo, attached to the memo, to the National Security Coordinator. He is the recipient of this particular one as well, and clearly, because this is an inter-security investigation, it goes without saying that the National Security Coordinator will definitely robbing the Economic and Organized Crime Office boss as well into looking into this.
Yes, it is a very critical pointer in the case. And for all you know, the lawyers involved in it, they have a strategy. So we cannot go into what strategies they have or how the court tends to run it. But as the matters come up, we can only give education, and that is where the bar can stop for us.
And I do appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Christian Mamhesi is private legal practitioner there. And then, as I indicated, so you look at the recipient of the letter and the memo, that's the National Security Coordinator.
Yeah.
As we speak, Kwabena Dubois is in the custody of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO.
Yes.
They are also a national security body involved in the investigation in this particular case.
Yeah.
So you definitely would have some coordination and some sharing of information as we have it now.
Yes.
And obviously, it's going to be a matter of interest, but it is incumbent on Kwabena Dubois and his lawyers to prove this in court, is it not?
It's rather on the prosecution to prove their case against them. So essentially, the state is saying that he's done A, B, C, D. So what they're only seeking to do is to put out information to the effect that, yes, at this point, even though you are doing investigation, I am guiding you as to how to go about the investigation. Perhaps there are things that you're overlooking. But of course, they've already been charged. So if there's anything that they can do with this one, it will form part of the evidence that they will use to exculpate themselves. But as it stands now, there's a burden on the state to prove that indeed all the charges that have been leveled against them are proven, and not just proven, but proven beyond reasonable doubt, if they must be convicted of the offenses that they are charged of.
But we're going to get into the specific charges and how it relates to what we're learning now. The companies ISC Holding and BNC, because in the words of the Attorney General Cole, during that press conference, he indicated that the BNC Limited, that was Kwabena Dubois-Hein's private company, which was said to be receiving the said monies, mimicked the initials of the Bureau of National Communications. That's the state agency.
That's right.
What else is he saying in there?
Yes, so when you read the letter that Dubois-Hein himself has written, he did indicate, or he mentions that, yes, there indeed was an account that had the name BNC Communications Bureau. And he contends that that was an authorized account that was created, and it was created for a certain purpose. Except he did not go on to mention some of the things that the Attorney General had said, and some of the things for which reason the Attorney General had charged him, to say that there was another account which also had a similar name. Recall that when the Attorney General had a press conference, in order to distinguish between the two, he decided to label one private and one national. So that the national one will be the one that was sanctioned by the National Security for its operations, and the other one, which he says was owned by the former National Signals Bureau Director General and then the wife. So when you look at it critically, yes, there seemed to be some agreement on some of the facts that have been put out there. Yes, indeed, there was that account for certain purposes, except to say that the transactions that have been alleged to have taken place on certain accounts is what is in dispute now. And that's also the same thing that applies to the issue of the ISC holding. Because when you look at the expenditure disbursement or the summary that we have read, the first item, which has to do with special operations, and that has to do with some things that we've mentioned, which I guess are softwares, Tyros, Scorpion, ACN 1 and 2, Hive. They say that the justification was for special operations, and that was payment towards special cyber and electronic surveillance solutions. The amount that was paid in that account is 9.5 million Ghana cedis. That was paid to the ISC holding. But when you look at the charge sheet, so for instance, on the offense of stealing, the particulars of the offense is to the effect that Kwabena Dubois-Hein, and this was somewhere in February 2020 in Accra and within the jurisdiction of this court, under the guise of procuring cyber defense system for the Republic of Ghana from ISC Holding Limited, dishonestly appropriated the sum of about 27,100,000 Ghana cedis belonging to the state with the intention of depriving. So this money, according to the Attorney General, and as contained in the charge sheet, it's money that was paid into the account of ISC Holdings. However, when you look at what he is saying here, the amount that was paid in here was just 9.5 million Ghana cedis.
I see, but then again,
but you see,
the AG indicates that yes, the money is the first installment was paid, but then subsequently.
But even this one, as has been stated here, 27 million, is far more than the 9 million that has been stated here.
That's in dollars, so the prevailing rate that if you do the multiplication, you get it.
No, so the figures that have been provided for here are in cedis, because he seeks to account for the 49 million Ghana cedis, which is said to be the reason for which he's in court. So when we just did a quick calculation of what he has given out by way of a summary of the expenditure, you get somewhere 44 million. I don't know why there's a shortfall, but perhaps it could be. No, I don't want to even speak for that, but just to put on record that it's around 44 million Ghana cedis. That is an attempt to justify the 49 million, which is said to have been stolen. So the point I'm saying, which is worth observing, is the fact that the only money that he says has been paid to this ISC holding is 9.5 million Ghana cedis. But even in respect of the charge of stealing alone, as is shown on the face of the charge sheet, the amount involved is 27.1 million Ghana cedis. There's a vast difference.
Indeed.
That's the whole point I'm making it with this one.
And it's a very, very important
Again,
point.
The other expenditures that have been contained in this one, you don't find them. I mean, the Attorney General does not even talk about them. So that's how come we don't even see anything about payment to opposition party, Operation Calm Life and buying of things. And no, we don't see all of that. So, I mean, these are matters that will be dealt with appropriately when they approach the right forum. He's back in court on May 13. And, I mean, the court, as indicated on the last agenda, was the fact that when they come back, the court will direct as to how the case will proceed. But, of course, if they go to a point where there has to be the filing of disclosures, where it basically means that the Attorney General will have to furnish him with all the documents and all the evidence that they will use to prosecute him, including evidence that would potentially get him out of trouble. So if there's any evidence that would prove his innocence, the Attorney General is obliged under law to also add that as part of the disclosures.
No surprises.
Not at all.
We've come far with criminal disclosures, isn't it?
Yes, very, very, very. I mean, it's one of the things that have actually revolutionized the criminal justice system. So that if you are being prosecuted and the state has evidence that show that you are innocent, they are under obligation to give you that evidence. I mean, how easy could that be?
Thanks to the likes of Martin Pebu and Eduju Tamaklo and others.
So this is to Eduju Tamaklo because the case of Bafo Boni, he was the lawyer in there. So,
well, let's recall exactly what the Attorney General said in that last press conference about Kobene Dubois and what we're hearing now in this memo from him.
BNC Communications Bureau Limited to Ghana Water, which religiously paid for the internet services. In other words, every 2 weeks when 650,000 Ghana cedis of money from Ghana Water left the bank accounts of Ghana Water, going to the National Signals Bureau account. It went to the account of a company known as Bureau of National Communications, owned by Kobene Dubois and his wife, okay? And then they did what they wanted to do with the money.
That's the Attorney General there. So Dennis, quickly, so May 13, that's next week Tuesday. All things being equal, is a date to watch.
Yes,
in this case going forward.
Yes, that's next week Tuesday, May 13. Yes,
perfect.
And I mean that was even with some opposition from the counsel for the accused person, thinking that even though the court granted 7 working days of him being in custody, it translated into 11 days. That's because of the weekends.
That's right.
So counsel actually pleaded with the court to see if they could dispense with the working days so that it could just be 7 days, by which, I mean, he would have been due to appear in court on Wednesday, today or tomorrow. But that did not find favor. And this again was on the strength of Martin Pebu, because the calculation of the 48-hour rule that was ruled by the Supreme Court now has to include public holidays and even weekends. So that was the case that the learned attaché tried to use to persuade the court. But unfortunately, because the Attorney General had indicated that they needed to engage external persons, some of whom may not be available over the weekends, the court had to stick to the working days. And now he has to be in custody for 11 days rather than the 7 days. I mean, 7 working days translating to 11 days.
Good stuff.
So May 13, we are back in court, see how the case progressed.
Thank you. Dennis Bobert with Dam Esquire. There's going to be more of this tonight on Ghana Tonight. So make a date, stay with us. But we have, as always, we're live on Kesmi 107.1 and on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. There's some breaking news coming through right now from the Narcotics Control Commission, and we're getting some information right now from the offices of the Narcotics Control Commission.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.7.
Now, some news coming through right now. The Narcotics Control Commission has raided at Timbuktu, arrested some drug dealers in there in a swift and decisive operation carried out earlier today. The Narcotics Control Commission raided multiple hideouts in Timbuktu, leading to the arrest of 3 individuals believed to be key players in a notorious drug trafficking ring operating in the eastern region. Now, the early morning swoop followed weeks of intelligence gathering and surveillance by the Commission and its allied security agencies. Now, the raid uncovered quantities of suspected narcotic substances concealed in various parts of the suspect's premises, along with items believed to be used in the processing and distribution of the illicit drugs. The arrested individuals, whose names are being withheld for investigative purposes, have been on the radar of law enforcement for months due to their alleged involvement in drug trafficking activities that extend beyond the eastern region. So that's the information coming through right now from the Narcotics Control Commission. They've arrested some 3 persons in a swift and decisive operation carried out earlier today in Atimpoko, leading to the arrest of 3 individuals believed to be key players in a notorious drug trafficking ring operating in the eastern region. So that's the information and the breaking news coming through right now from the Narcotics Control Commission. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Straight into today. Marks exactly 120 days since President John Dramani Mahama assumed the reins of power with the vision of transforming the country under the popular mantra resetting agenda. The NDC indeed captured in its popular manifesto a number of things the party intends to achieve within the first 120 days in office, dubbed the 120 days social contract. This evening, President John Dramani Mahama, from what the communication we're getting from the presidency, is built to address the nation on the 120 days promises. We counted more than 25 of them, as we do know, and he detailed that during the launch of the NDC's manifesto in the Western region prior to election 2024. Now, what we do know is that there's already been tracking of this particular manifesto promise, the 25 as we've captured, but then there are those who say there's a lot more that the president also would have to do beyond the 120 days. But Wisdom Safo is with the research desk here at Media General. We're going to get into the analysis of the 120 days, which elapses today, and what has been done so far, what is yet to be done in the days ahead. But this is the President, John Dramani Mahama, ahead of today, also giving indication of what he intends to do going forward in this 120-day promise and the accountability that he has put out there.
This note, it is my honor and privilege to invite the Minister and his colleagues to join me to unveil the logo and officially launch the National Apprenticeship Program. I thank you. May God bless our nation, Ghana.
E-levy bill. I'll proceed to sign it. Okay, I've just given assent to the repeal of the famous e-levy bill.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, it is my honor and privilege to officially launch the National Sanitary Pad Distribution Program, a promise made and a promise kept. Committed to ensuring that all who are concerned about education in Ghana have an opportunity to contribute meaningfully to shaping the policies and programs that will deliver the kind of education we all want. I'm gratified that this has become a reality, and I stand before you today to officially open the National Education Consultative Forum with great pleasure and a deep sense of purpose. Today we're launching more than just an initiative. We're launching hope. hope for thousands of Ghanaians living with chronic diseases. Support from the fund will be based on formal applications, carefully vetted, and will focus on costs not currently covered under the NHIS.
Ladies and gentlemen, we gather in front of the Independence Act to relaunch the Black Star.
I pledged to restore discipline, integrity, and accountability into our governance. Today, we're taking an important step towards fulfilling that promise with the official launch of the Code of Conduct for Political Appointees. Every layer of this initiative has been designed for scale and for sustainability. At community information centers across all metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, this decentralized approach ensures that no matter where you live, in the city or in a remote village, you will have access to the opportunity of the 1 Million Coders program.
And as the president there, we hit the streets across the country, interacting with Ghanaians also to share their views about their own verdict of the president's 120 days in office as president of the Republic of Ghana in his second term. In the Ashanti region, this is what the people we spoke to said.
Mahama has done well. He promised to abolish e-levy, betting tax and other taxes. The prices of fuel is also reducing. We think if he keeps doing it this way, it will help. As for governance, there hasn't been much changes. You said you would take away all the taxes, but it has been diverted to water bill. The increment of water and light bill is not easy. If you have wings and can't fly, what is the use?
Well, that's in the Ashanti region. Well, let's go to the central region. This is what the people who spoke to had to say.
It's quite impressive. For the first 120 days, he's been doing something. And I think the major issue surrounding, his first 100 days has to do with the Galamsey. And like he really said the other time, he's trying to do something about it. But quite apart from Galamsey issues, all the other promises he gave concerning e-levy, the betting tax, and all the others, Mahama case, and all the other promises he made. But actually, we've seen, some glimpses of whatever he promised Ghanaians.
The first 120 days of the president so far has been interesting. It's the fact that he has abolished the e-levy, emission levy, and all those levy that it absorbs our money. So, it has been interesting so far. And once again, to our NSS salary, our allowance to come so perfect.
Well, personally, I think he's doing his best, considering the measures that he has put in place. One thing that I've loved that man so much is cancellation of the betting tax and other nuisance tax that he was talking about. And then recently he has launched the conduct for the appointees, of which I think is going to help them or shaping them in their activities.
That's for the central region. Let's go straight to other regions, the eastern region, where some people also share their thoughts about the president's 120 days.
Mahama 120 days exactly today. Obojuma say anybody we bosha or share, ebini betting tax or case obey, e-levy or case obey. Also, you know, if you also share dollar rating a baffle. And I also share about promise the so about passport reduction. And about Black Star experience in our lunch. And I can say I think some youth employment agency we promise be for launching in here into ocean and then when you 140 days office in Kurinyam or Yujma say an obey accord ya we shall say be a because in a year pen.
Mahama 120 days. press nema bebre boa say dollar no swat say about 13 alawaya o mana 700 and the next is only be catch and say yeah the 300 account how mana 1000 it is so far there
no kwasem and then 120 days mahama ebetena akonwa so 120 days obetena akonwa so niam pa odigu akwan mu so obeye no papa ni nyame nto de bunsiesie no owo adwen papa magana fo medie mi woni mu gidie say ne awaka no ana se okaye no obeye ni nyina wo do ne asomdwe kwanso.
Some Ghanaians sharing their thoughts of the president's performance in the first 120 days. Wisdom Safo, this is our research desk, is here with me in studio. Wisdom, let's start off with this. Exactly what the president said he was going to do within the 120 days. And what's the status of all those promises? Let's get into it.
Okay, so Alfred, the total number of promises here was 25. Now, let's run through the ones that he has completed and mark the percentage that has been allocated to it. So the first on the list is that he said you nominate within the first 14 days the complete list of cabinet ministers for parliamentary approval. Well, the complete list was not out in the first 14 days, but well, most of the cabinet ministers were appointed within the first 14 days after assuming office. So, well, we can take that. You know that the cabinet ministers were a total of 19 with 2 women and 17 men, and their first meeting, which was held in the February 20th of this year. So, well, we can take that. That has been done. Then, the second one on the list is that he said he will constitute the leanest and most efficient government under the Fourth Republic in his first 90 days in office. Well, if you track the number of ministerial appointees since independence, well, let's start from the Fourth Republic, 1992. We have Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings appointing 82 ministers. His Excellency, former President John Ajay Kufuor, having 93 ministers. We have John Evans Atamils having 75 ministers. We have John Dramani Mahama's first term, he appointed 84 ministers. Now, President Akufo-Addo appointed 110 ministers. It later increased to 123.
Yes.
But for now, with the figure that we have 56 ministers appointed so far. We have 4 outstanding. So if you are going with the figures, yes, he has formed the leanest government under the Fourth Republic. But the measure of efficiency, how do you measure the most efficient government? Well, they say productivity is output per man hour. So if you are taking 90 people and they are doing the same job, and now we have 56 people and they are doing the same job output, well, you can say they are efficient. But other people are arguing that, well, we can't actually quantify efficiency. But with our analysis of output per man hour, we can say that with that, we can take that as well, that he has constituted the leanest and most efficient government. Now, the third on the list here is he said he will establish a robust code of conduct and standard for all government officials. And with that, you remember just this week, he outdoored that. He said specifically that his appointees, if they receive a gift above 20,000 Ghana cedis, they should surrender all that to the president's office, and so that the president actually permits the retention of that money. And they should not hold any stakes in family to a ministry or an insider dealing. And also, he banned his political appointees from buying state assets in the code of conduct. So with that, we can also take that as done. Then the fourth on the list is he said you hold a national economic dialogue. You know, on the 3rd of March, that was also done. And he said you scrap e-levy, COVID levy, 10% levy on betting winnings, and emissions levy within the first 90 days. Well, all has been scrapped with the exception of the COVID levy. Now, the COVID levy, he said that during the reading of the budgets by Honorable Case or Lato Forsin, he said that you form a VAT reform task force, that will be set up for broad consultation, and they will review those VAT VAT system, and the COVID levy is also part of the taxes that they will seek to abolish when this reform is ongoing. So we can take that as done. Now, we also can take the commencement of the drafting of the legal amendments so that we can implement the 24-hour economy. So if you recall, just Monday, there was a committee that was set up, the Accelerated Export Development Committee. We saw Gusitano in there. He is the presidential advisor on the 24-hour economy. So that has also been constituted. They started the commencement of and drafting of the legal framework for the 24-hour economy. We can also take that as done. On the same Monday, we moved to the 8th point. He said you establish an Accelerated Export Development Council, the AEDC. That was also done on Monday, May 5th. Now, on the 9th one, he said you organized a national consultative conference on education, and that was also launched on the 18th of February. Mm-hmm. So that can also be ticked as done. Now, next on the list is the no academic fee policy, popularly known as no fee stress. Yes, you remember when Case Olatofosin was reading the budget, he allocated 499.8 million Ghana cedis to that policy. And just recently, about 2 weeks ago, about a week ago actually, we saw the National Student Loan Trust Fund coming out with a communique that you can actually go and apply for this no fee stress online. So yes, that has also been ticked and done. Now for the Free Tertiary Education for Persons with Disability, PWDs, and Mahama Care Trust Fund, that has also been done. And you remember President John Dramani Mahama donated 6 months of his salary to that Mahama Cares Fund just this week. So, and we are moving on. We are going step by step and see and quantify the ones that has been done, the ones that is pending. Well, and you give Mahama a score and you grade him. Let's take he's a student. You just grade him whether on a grade on A to F. Where will you put him? No, the next one on the list is the free sanitary pad for female students in primary and secondary school. So it was launched on the 24th of April. 292.4 million cedis was allocated, so that can be ticked as done. So he also said you institute inquiries into inquiries and forensic audits into key corruption scandal. You remember Oral, led by Okujeto Ablakwa, and you remember Martin Tebu was also part of Oral. So you remember the National Signal Bureau had council detailing the outcome of the ruling. Indeed. I mean, Dubois and the ghost name scandal as well. All that, these are some of the scandals that is being investigated. So we can take that one also as done. He also banned political appointees from number 14, banned political appointees from purchasing state assets. Remember when he was Code of Conduct. When he was launching the Code of Conduct, it was also captured in there. So that has also been ticked as done. So allocation of seed money for the establishment of the Women's Development Bank. So in the budget, 51.3 million cedis was allocated to that effect. Now, others are saying the money is not enough and it's just a peanut. But well, it has been done. Now, a Jumarura program, National Apprenticeship Program, and 1 million coders. All these three has also been launched. Now, banning of illegal mining in forest reserve and the rollout of Tree for Life and Blue Water Initiative. Remember, 400 lifeguards were commissioned to be for the Blue Water Initiative. Okay. But the dicey one here is the banning of banning of mining in forest reserve. You know, the repeal of LI 2462 is still in contention. So, well, with this, we can't give it a full mark. But because the Tree for Life has been launched and the Blue Water has been launched, if you are calculating the percentages, you realize it will be around 66.66%. Then, well, we can give that to President John Mahama. So that has also been ticked. Now, for the Black Star experience, that one has also been launched. Now, he also said you reopen investigation into major unresolved criminal cases. You remember Ahmed Swale? That case has also been opened. The 2020 killings in the elections, that has also been opened. Then Mahama actually instructed the IGP to bring out all the case files for consideration. Now, the next thing here is the VRA, Akosobo Dam spillage, compensation of flood victims, and the SOE probe, where they will restructure loss-making SOEs to make profit. You remember the ECG conversation, private partnership conversation, all this. So these three all has also been completed. So if you look at the percentage completion or the percentage of these promises that have been completed, a total of 25 promises, 21 of them have been fully completed, and that is 84% of the total promises. So currently we are giving Mahama 85% out of 100 based on this promises.
I do appreciate this, and you'll find a full complement of this on 3news.com. We're back shortly with some more after the script break. Stay with us.
Hello, Ghana.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, April 2025, inflation slows to 21.2% for the fifth consecutive time. My name is Menuafo. We'll bring you details of this and more shortly. Now the details. Inflation for the month of April 2025 slowed marginally to 21.2% from 22.4% in March, representing 5 consecutive months of decline. According to recent data, food and non-alcoholic beverages continue to drive inflationary pressures. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu observed that the decline in inflation rate suggests a slight easing of price pressures, potentially influenced by monetary policies or changes in global commodity prices.
The year-on-year inflation for April 2025 was 21.2%, down from 22.4% inflation recorded in March 2025. This inflation rate of 21.2% is further decomposed into food inflation of 25%, down from 26.5% food inflation in March 2025, and also non-food inflation of 17.9%, down from 18.7% in March 2025. Again, I would like to highlight that in terms of disaggregation from locally produced items and also from imported items, the inflation rate of 21.2% for April 2025, we saw locally produced items generating inflation of 27.7%, down from the inflation rate of 24% in March 2025.
You heard the voice of government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu there. Meanwhile, the World Bank is projecting global food prices are expected to decline significantly in 2025, with grains taking the biggest hit, driven mainly by a sharp drop in rice prices. This was revealed in the Bretton Woods Institution's latest commodity markets outlook.
The World Bank says food prices worldwide will fall by 7% in 2025, with all three major food categories, grains, oils and meals, and other food items, expected to see price drops. Grains are forecast to decline the most by 11%, largely due to a projected 29% fall in rice prices. This is attributed to increased global supply and India's move to ease export restrictions. India, which contributes about 40% of the world's rice exports, is forecast to increase its production by 5% in the 2024-2025 season. As for wheat, prices are expected to dip slightly amid weaker demand and tight supply, though consumption is set to slightly outpace production. Maize prices are also projected to edge down by 2% annually over the next 2 years. The World Bank points to falling oil prices and reduced demand for ethanol as key factors. Maize production is expected to rebound, though tight inventories may limit the extent of the price drop. The World Bank expects food prices to remain broadly stable in 2026.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on World Bank projecting 7% drop in global food prices in 2025, led by a sharp fall in rice and grain prices. In more news, the Bank of Ghana is ramping up efforts to strengthen cybersecurity across the financial sector after Ghana recorded nearly 10 million cedis in cyber fraud losses in 2024. At a stakeholder engagement in Accra, the first Deputy Governor, Dr. Zakari Mumuni, announced revisions to the Central Bank's Cybersecurity Directive and plans to expand its Command Operations Center to cover all regulated institutions.
Together, we must reflect, re-strategize and build on our shared progress. Accordingly, the bank has initiated a progress to revise the Cyber and Information Security Directive. The updated directive will address emerging risks tied to artificial intelligence, data privacy, cloud computing, and digital governance. These are new areas that were not included in the earlier directive, and so the need to update this is now more than ever imperative. It is being designed with proportionality in mind, ensuring that regulatory requirements reflect the varied realities of different institutions while continuing to protect innovation. In addition, the Bank of Ghana has commenced steps to expand the scope of the FICSOC to include all regulated financial institutions, bringing in our sister regulators, namely NIC, NPRA, and SEC.
That over there was the first Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Zakari Mumuni. Away from that, the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana has urged government to investigate some expenditures in the agricultural sector under the previous administration. Executive Director Bismarck Tete Owusu-Norte made the call while assessing the government's first 120 days in office. While commending the government for introducing agricultural initiatives, he emphasized the need for swift implementation to drive down food prices and ensure food security.
The president also promised to undertake forensic audits of several expenditure within the previous governments, and key among them was the Paulugu Waterfalls Dam. So far, we've not heard much about it, So it will be good to know how far we've come. I think also related to the agricultural sector is the issue of galamsey, and the fact that the president was very clear about the banning of illegal mining and doing the Tree for Life program. I think we've seen some work being done, even though you agree that a lot of us feel that the approach is not as radical as many of us would have thought. However, the fact that within the 120 days, we've been able to have a launch of their flagship agricultural program, that's Feed Ghana program, I think that's a good step.
Executive Director of Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Tete Owusu-Norte there. Well, that's it for Business News on Hot Edition. For more stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Stay tuned. Sports News is up next.
For me.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment on Hot Edition on CFM 92.7 with me, Oreku Ampofo. Let's start off with our first story, where Hartlepool goalkeeper Benjamin Asare was gifted with a car by business magnate Alhaji Seidu Agongo, that's Chief Executive Officer of Class Media Group, on Wednesday. The presentation took place at the club's commercial center on Wednesday morning. Now, Agongo's benevolent act comes after Asare's video in public transport went viral on the internet earlier in March. Asare was spotted at the front seat of a van, that's a commercial vehicle, after marking his Black Stars debut, triggering netizens to condemn the act. Here is a Black Star shot stopper sharing his excitement after receiving the car.
And so far, they're free now. Just honorable ordinance because they know they are not betting at you. art and also betting a car. Like someone like me, there will be any support that's in Ghana. Any present, and say, oh, what's my man is cheating opportunity. And I'm that's the answer, man, which I got, because any man can, any
And so that was Benjamin Asare speaking, basically just showing gratitude to the fans and then also to everyone who's played a role in where he's reached in his career so far, including that of that's Alhaji Seydou Agongo, who ended up giving him the car. But let's hear from his head coach, as Abubakar Ouattara, who decided to use the opportunity to advise the skipper to sustain his good form, noting that consistent performances is what earned him his recent gift.
Because Ghana is the one of the big football country in the world, not in Africa, in the world. Thank you for everything.
And so that was Abubakar Ouattara. Let's move on to other stories where Ghana under-24 Jerry Afriye has departed the 2025 CAF African Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt, returning to his Spanish club side CD Lugo ahead of their crucial league fixtures. The 18-year-old striker left the Ghana camp on Wednesday morning after featuring in the team's opening 2 matches against DR Congo and then Senegal. Afriye's departure follows a mutual agreement between the Ghana Football Association and Lugo, who reluctantly released the player for the tournament. My colleague Billy Shen believes that it could have been a better decision from the FA and Lugo if it was impact that both parties were after.
Jerry Afriye, who is one of the best players, around in the under-20, not getting the opportunity to stay up until the semi-finals just seems like a waste of time, because now the team has to make do without him. I think it would have been better if he had come in around the quarter-final stage, and then if he was going to play 2 games, let him play the 2 games, and help Ghana secure qualification to the under-20 World Cup.
Well, that was Billy Shen on Jerry Afriye. Moving away from men's football to women's football, the Black Queens have kicked off intense preparations for the upcoming Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. The team is currently training in Pram Pram and will face the Black Princesses in a friendly on Saturday. Head coach Kim Las-Joikegren spoke about the importance of the training ahead of the tournament in a yet-to-be-aired interview with 3 Sports.
It's I signed the contract with a little bit limited of time before the AFCON in the summer. So for me to see all of the players in whole Ghana is impossible. When I have been here, I maybe had a chance to go and watch 1 game like 3 o'clock, but if there's no more games later, I can't see all of the players. So this was a great chance for me to bring many players and to get to know them both on and off pitch. And I'm happy that the FA have supported me in this. So, and in the future, I'm looking forward to see even more players. I'm grateful that we have the under-20 here now in the same time. So, like I said before, I already think I watched 85 players in live here, and probably another like 85 in videos or something like that. So I know that I start to sooner or later have watched like all of the players here in Ghana, but I'm taking it step by step. But I'm happy that they feel that I'm seeing them. I'm happy to give them this opportunity as well.
That was head coach of Black Queens, Kim Las-Joikegren. To Europe, where Mikel Arteta is ready for what should be a scintillating semi-final as they travel to France to place Paris Saint-Germain in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-finals. The Gunners currently trail by 1-0, but Arteta is still confident that his team can reach the Champions League final.
The most beautiful cities in the world against a great opponent. It doesn't get much better than that. We are here to make history. We have a big opportunity tomorrow. We bring a result that gives us so much clarity about what we have to do. A lot of learnings from the first leg as well, and how small the margins are between the two teams. The result, in my opinion, should have been very different to that one. So tomorrow, another opportunity to prove that and earn the right to be in the final.
Well, meanwhile, his opposite number on the day, Luis Enrique, has praised the resilience of his players as they prepare to battle Arsenal for the right to play Inter Milan in the final of the UEFA Champions League later this month.
Well, it's so easy. When you play those kind of matches at that level, you smell clearly the happiness and they are looking forward to playing that match, and it's so easy to train that week, and everybody is connected and focused on the semi-final.
So you can get updates of the match between Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal on our social media pages at 3SportsGH, and also get fan reactions as well. My name is Oreo Kampofo, and that's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition.
Also on Kesme 107.1 and on W93.5 in WA and beyond. The Ghana Education Service says it will be able to determine the fate of thousands of teachers purportedly recruited into the service during the dying days of the XY Akufo-Addo administration only after the completion of ongoing audits. According to the Director General, Professor Ernest Kofi, also indicated that the handing over notes from his predecessor indicated some 39,000 teachers applied to join GES. Only a little over 2,000 were recruited. He says the true status of the remainder will be determined after ongoing validation exercises so far as indicated. He also has given indication that the reminders that they need for this ongoing audit can only come through when the picketing is called off by these persons who earlier today picketed at the premises of the Education Ministry demanding financial clearance for them to be posted.
And know what they think about or what they are talking about our issue, because we don't know what is going on. Some of us have been at post since last term. We've worked there for almost 5 5 months now, and we have not heard anything. No staff ID. Some of them, they are, what's the name? Their original postal letters are not released. They have stuck there. They halt all the process that they should stop everything. And we don't know our fate now. So we are here to seek their attention or what they think about our issue. Okay.
Also, some of these frustrated teachers, the graduate teachers there, the presence of the graduate teachers caught the attention of the Education Minister, Haruna Idrisu, who sought to explain their peculiar circumstance to them.
Appointment letters were issued to persons numbering up to 39,000 when there was no financial clearance to do that to begin with. So that's problematic. So of the 39,000, probably government may be able to absorb 9, 11, 12,000, but certainly not 39,000. So whoever misled you, deceived you, is not John Mahama or Haruna Idrisu administration, not at all. Somebody probably, I won't use the word con, that's too strong, but deceptively got a number of you unknowingly, without knowing, to yield to some recruitment of a sort, which recruitment was not approved legitimately. So we are auditing to know that yes, you have the right qualification, you are entitled to the appointment, and 3, you are at post. Then out of you, we will pick that which we can absorb within budget. If that exercise is not complete, I have no story to tell you. You have to be patient until we finish the validation exercise.
That's Education Minister Haruna Idrisu there. There's more news on 3news.com, but join us at 8 p.m. for the live coverage of the pre- and post-analysis of President John Dramani Mahama's 120 days in office. The president is expected to address the nation at 8:30 p.m., but we will start the coverage of the 120 days analysis at 8 p.m. on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great evening.